With a new offensive coordinator and pending weather, FSU may pose a unique challenge to Alabama. Stick around. Let's talk about how much firepower the Tide will need to get out of Tallahassee. Stick around. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Week 0 of the college football season is in the books, and it did not disappoint. No, there were no real marquee matchups. You did have Iowa State, Kansas State, 2 top 25 teams battling it out over there in Ireland, which, if you watched Thursday's show when we did our picks, you would have heard that Chris and I both picked Iowa State to win that game outright, and we were both correct. Don't miss the show. The live show is really, really good. I think you'll enjoy it. It's fun time also just to kind of hang out with like-minded bammers like myself. Do me a favor before we get started, leave a big roll tide in the comment section below. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and while you're there, subscribe. Hey, also, did you know we have a website? We sure do. It's wayoffsides.com. That is wayoffsides with 4 A's, never 3, never 5, always 4. Tell them, Skip.
Way, this is all caps, WAAAAY, way.
Appreciate that, Skip Bayless. Thank you for the cameo. With the end of week 0 comes the start of week 1, and there are some marquee matchups this coming weekend. College football is here. You can feel it in the air. If you're on social media, it's all anybody is talking about. And the Tide is ready to roll. Now, we're going to talk specifically about Alabama today and their trip down to Tallahassee, but there's some really good games coming up this weekend. It starts Thursday night. Then into Friday, I think you've got Georgia Tech, Colorado. That's either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember, but you got Auburn at Baylor. Obviously, you've got Texas and Ohio State this weekend. You've got Alabama, Colorado, LSU, Clemson, or Alabama, FSU, LSU, Clemson. Just an insane weekend of college football. The first weekend of college football is all really, really, really good. And then you get like 2 weeks of just, and then conference play starts and it gets more fun again. But in terms of the Tide, they're going to open up against Florida State. Typically, this would be viewed as a pretty solid non-conference opponent. Alabama has a history of opening against really, really good non-conference opponents. Alabama can't really help where FSU is right now, coming off of a 2-10 season. But historically, traditionally, Florida State's not a scrub. They're not a terrible team, and this would be a big-time matchup. Now, coming right out of the gate, talking about how the Tide will fare down in Tallahassee and what I think is going to happen. What I need everybody to understand is this is not the FSU team of last year. This is a facility that is full of new faces, new coaches. I can't remember who said it, but I was watching somebody and they were pretty much like, they all need to be wearing name tags. There's so many new people. Now, that can go one of two ways. That can either be good for Florida State, fresh blood, fresh faces, for new attitudes, new minds and bodies to be molded, or it could just be another Maj Podge of disaster like it was in 2024. I believe solely that Florida State's issue in 2024 is that they relied too heavily on the transfer portal, and you had so many people coming in with different philosophies, different ideas, and it just didn't mesh well. On top of, I don't think Mike Norvell is that good of a coach. So that's where I stand on that. Now, going down to Florida State poses some potential issues for Alabama. Both of these teams winning this game means something different to them. For Florida State, it obviously would immediately show, hey, we're not the same team we were last year, and it puts Florida State back in the national spotlight. They expect to lose this game unless they're one of these unruly, crazy fans on social media. For Alabama, however, it goes to show, yes, Alabama can win this game, right? But if they struggle or if Florida State makes it competitive, then the narrative's not going to be about Alabama winning the game. The narrative's going to be like they didn't look good because it was Florida State. It's going to have to go later in the season to see if Florida State's actually solid this year or not. As well as it puts, if Alabama goes to Tallahassee and blows them out, then what everybody thinks Alabama's going to be, it kind of solidifies that a little bit, because again, we don't know how good FSU is until they get a couple games into the season. So in the sense of who this game means more to, I think it's a toss up. It does mean something to Alabama because a 9-4 season last year might as well have been a 2-10 season. At least that's how it felt to fans, players, and hopefully staff, because that's not the standard at Alabama. So we'll see. But in terms of going to Tallahassee, the first thing is first. You've seen a lot about it if you follow us on social media, if you follow other folks on social media. The weather. The weather that day, there is the potential for some rain. There was more potential for rain the past couple of days, but something you guys need to understand about Florida is that weather changes constantly. I can look at my weather app. I live in Florida. I can look at my weather app right now. It's going to tell me it's going to thunderstorm in 15 minutes. And by the time I get out there, there is no thunderstorm. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's like recruiting. It's very fluid and constantly changing, ebbing and flowing. And so that doesn't mean anything. But there is one thing weather-wise I can guarantee: it's going to be humid. It's going to be very, very humid. Now, that doesn't mean, I get it. Alabama is Alabama. It's hot in August and September in Alabama too, in July, when these guys have been going through practice and fall camp. But there's something different to be said about the humidity in Florida. I can attest to that. We've seen it impact Alabama the last few times they've come down here and played outside of the ReliaQuest Bowl and the loss to Michigan. And so weather is going to be something that, as much as they can, the staff, equipment managers, coaches, your sports medicine folks, they're going to have to manage that and plan for it. So just right off the bat, you've got an issue for Alabama, because it's not to say it won't impact Florida State at all, but Florida State typically would be more inclined and acclimated to weather conditions in Tallahassee. Secondly, field conditions. I'm not sure if you've been paying attention, but FSU is doing a lot of stuff to their stadium right now, to Doak Campbell Stadium, as well as putting down fresh sod. And when I say fresh, I mean it just went down. And so, assuming that it hasn't rooted and there is rain, the turf conditions could be bad, could be very, very bad. And that's something that, again, those equipment managers, some smarter brains than us, will have to plan for and adjust for as much as possible. Now, the X's and O's, I talked about the new faces at FSU. The most important one is probably going to be Gus Malzahn, former Auburn head coach. We all know, anybody who's watched Alabama football for a long time, you all know that Gus Malzahn is a madman. And Malzahn he was a thorn in Nick Saban's side when he was at Auburn. And he's going to bring some of that philosophy to FSU's offense as well. I guarantee you he's watched the Vanderbilt game. He's watched the Oklahoma game. And he's going to implement some of those things. Now, Kane Womack, we've seen in fall camp, has been doing some things a little differently. He's been adding some wrinkles to that defense to either help get to the quarterback or help get to the run or stop the run game. And so I think that in a battle of the brains there, Kane Womack's going to win that fight just because he's got more experience. This defense is better. There's just more talent all around for Alabama. In terms of head coaching, you got to give the nod to Kalen DeBoer there. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer has big-time wins over Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian, Dan Lanning. He's played for a college football playoff national championship. He was handpicked practically by Nick Saban. Maybe not handpicked, but you get what I'm saying. Nick Saban was a big part of his hire. And if Nick Saban trusts him, we do too. And so I just feel like Kalen DeBoer hasn't really gotten a chance to shine yet. And I feel like I say this every time I do a video, but you know as well as I do right now that in Kalen DeBoer's second year, he has been extremely successful everywhere he's gone. And some of that can be just kind of getting comfortable, getting used to the turnover after a head coach leaves. But Kalen DeBoer, I do believe going into his second year at Alabama is going to be a force to be reckoned with. Well, offensively, the question becomes, can Alabama go down there and run its offense? Some of that depends on the weather. Some of that depends on if it's going to be pouring rain, if it's going to be raining cats and dogs, what the field looks like, what it feels like. And then obviously you don't have Jam Miller, their starting running back. I think Alabama easily will be able to establish a run. I think it would actually be, it's going to be harder for them to throw than run the ball, despite FSU and who they were last year. They do have normally a decent secondary. And so I think that that'll be shored up a little bit. I'm not saying that they're going to be good. They're going to be able to shut Alabama down, but I expect Alabama's offense to kind of sputter a little bit coming out of the gate here. I do. Not a knock against Ty Simpson or anybody like that. I think it's going to require some patience on our part. Sorry, I got something in my eye. I think it's going to require some patience in this game on my part, especially me, because I get very impatient. But yeah, I think it'll take a couple of drives for them to actually get revved up and get started and get going, just because you're talking about a new quarterback on the road in a very loud, hostile environment. This is the biggest game they've had in a couple of seasons. And then, that offensive line, we've kind of heard some stuff about false starts coming out of fall camp and scrimmage. So, that's never a good sign. And so, it's going to take them a while to kind of get their bearings and also be rooted in that moment and kind of get the groove going. And that's why I keep saying I think Alabama will come out and want to run the ball. They'll want to establish the run here. And so I do think this offense is capable of putting up 40 plus a game. I don't know that they'll do it at Tallahassee just because they're going to be very run heavy, especially if it's raining. So that's where we are offensively. Defensively, I think we all know the story there. Alabama, all the way across the board, has a much better defense. They have a better team in general, but Alabama is going to be fielding one of the best defenses in college football this year. So I'm not as concerned there. I am, again, concerned with Gus Malzahn and what he's able to kind of conjure up in his kitchen. The little witch conjure up in his kitchen, and it might give us some headaches for a little bit. It might take some time, just like I said, offensively to kind of adjust to. And I could see this kind of being a back and forth thing for a quarter. I don't think it's going to sustain. I think talent will win the day in the long run. I think Alabama, we could see this thing go at half 14-14, 17-14, something like that. And then kind of explode into something else in the second half. I think the longer this game goes on, the more clear it will become that Alabama's the more dominant team. They're the deeper team. They're the more talented team. They're the better coached team. As long as they're able to manage things like the humidity, cramps, stuff like that. We saw that yesterday. If you watch the Hawaii game, great game, by the way. If you watch that game, a lot of guys started going down with cramps there in the fourth quarter. Hawaii actually got charged a timeout because the ball was already spotted and they had a guy go down with cramps. Sucked because obviously he was definitely hurt or hurting, but they still had to take the timeout penalty because he went down on the ground after the ball was spotted. So little things like that are going to matter. They're going to need to be managed well. Communication is going to be key, especially with that crowd. Those folks get pretty loud down there. That war chant that they do over and over and over and over again. But I think as the game progresses, Alabama has the tools, they have the keys, they have everything they need to actually go down there and blow the doors off of this. But because it's the first game of the season, I think that they're going to have to kind of crawl their way into it. There's a lot of new things going on in Tuscaloosa, and I think Ty Simpson is going to be phenomenal. I think this offensive line is going to be phenomenal. However, I don't want to say it's a new system, but you're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, and this is going to be their first live game experience. So it's just going to take some time to kind of fill that out, see how it's going to work out. Maybe a couple road bumps here or there that they'll be able to adapt to. The staff is very professional. They've been around the block. They know what they're doing. So I'm not super duper concerned about it, but I do think that Alabama will be able to go down into Tallahassee and handle this one. I do think it's going to be a little bit closer than folks think. This isn't going to be some 63-7 route. I asked for score predictions on Twitter, and a lot of folks were like, 56-0 and this and that. That could happen. It absolutely could happen. I don't expect that. I think this is more like a 37-17, 37-21 type outing, and I think it stays close up until about halfway through the third quarter, and Alabama starts to separate itself. So be sure to tell me what you think. What factors am I missing in this game that could potentially change the way that it's played? It could change the way the result on the field. I would love to hear from you. And while you're over there doing that, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all of those things so that you don't miss anything as we move in and get closer to the official start of week one. There's a lot of cool stuff we're going to be talking about this week, obviously during the game week. Golly, we're going to keep doing our lives. We're picking up another live. Just we're working, folks, and we're working for you. Thanks for sticking around with me. You guys are the absolute best as always. Say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too, and the Knowles. Roll Tide.